design, there must be a designer, a very smart designer. That is called the creationist worldview, which I have right here, the creation worldview. These are basically the only options. Somebody made the world, or nobody made the world. There's no other options. Now, if you believe somebody made the world, then of course there's a lot of options within this category. Was it Allah or Buddha or Jehovah or, who was it? Okay, that gets into a whole other argument of which God made the world and when did he make it and how did he make it is another set of arguments. But basically I'm settling it into two camps. Either there is a creator or there isn't a creator. And so that kind of lays the groundwork for where I'm going to be going with my seminar. I say there's two worldviews. And which of these views you choose to adopt will determine how you answer the four great questions of life. And these two worldviews, creation and evolution, are absolutely at war with each other. Charles Darwin's book was written in 1859. That'll be a quiz question. When was Darwin's book written? 1859. Okay, what date's on a Tuesday we have the meeting? March 9th. Steve, you're on the ball. Oh, March 7th. Give that back. 7th. There we go. March 7th. Okay. You get a crazy. All right. There we go. And what I'll do each week is we'll keep adding to these questions. Eventually we'll stop using that one as a question. But we'll keep, and just out of the clear blue, we might be talking about one subject and bang, ask a question about something from last week. That's always been my method of teaching to keep, it's a constant review, so that by the time you take the final exam, there could be 800 questions on there. It wouldn't matter. You get them all right. That's my idea of testing. Yes?
Did Darwin only write one book?
He wrote several books. The first one that he wrote was called, back in those days they had long titles on their books. Okay, like sometimes a whole paragraph was the title to the book. It was kind of the custom of the mid-1800s. And we'll get into a whole lot more on Darwin's book. Darwin, strange fellow in many ways. His grandfather was a doctor, medical doctor. He really came up with most of the evolution theory. Pass another book back there, Heidi, if you would. Give her some more there, Eric. Erasmus Darwin was a medical doctor with a real hatred for Christianity. His name was Erasmus, E-R-A-S-M-U-S, I think. Erasmus Darwin wrote a lot about evolution. I forget the name of his book. I could look it up. Something about zoology or something like that. And but the world wasn't really ready for that. That was in 1802 when he died, I believe, or when he wrote his book, somewhere in there. We can look up the facts. But when Grandpa Darwin wrote his book, at that time, the world was still strongly influenced by Christianity. Our founding fathers, for instance, were strong believers in, at least in God. Jefferson was a deist. He wasn't a Christian. But one more back there. Is that the last notebook? Oh, she's got them. Okay. And so Erasmus Darwin was a medical doctor, and his son, I don't remember Charlie's dad's name, but he was also a medical doctor. Charlie showed no interest in much of anything except shooting birds. He just loved to go shoot birds, and he liked to play, basically. All of his life he just liked to play. Never did want to settle down to anything. So it took Darwin like 30 years to write that book. And the title is On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. A big long title on the book. And we'll get into a whole lot more of that later because it's very important. But Charlie Darwin hated birds because he loved worms. I'm telling you, the guy was a real screwball, okay? He hated women. He hated blacks. Hated anybody that wasn't, like him. We get into more of his racism later, which we cover on my video number 5 of my series. I show all the documentation. Another thing I try to do in my seminar, when I show a picture, I try to put right at the bottom the documentation. Where did this come from? That saves me an awful lot of phone calls. Hey, where'd you get that information? I don't know. Look on my slide. When I taught school for 15 years, I would always put the week's homework up in the corner of the chalkboard for every class. I had a little graph that stayed up there permanently. Okay, here's math class, here's biology class, here's earth science class, here's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Here's your homework for the rest of the week. And because kids would always call me at home. What's due tomorrow? I don't know. Go look on the board. Even if I knew, I wouldn't want to tell them. Because then you got to do that the rest of your life. Eventually, you got to wean them off. Depending on me, okay, it's been on the board all week. Write it down. So that's another teaching tool that I picked up from somebody. Anyway, Darwin's book was written in 1859, or published in 1859. There seems to be quite a controversy about this. 1,200 volumes were published, 1,200 copies. All of them sold first day. So it looked like, wow, a runaway bestseller. It appears that the truth of the matter is a couple of rich folks arranged to have all of them purchased on the first day so that it would look like a runaway bestseller. When actually it wasn't. The book it's boring. I mean, try to read it sometime. It's a real boring book. He's a lousy author. He rambles on and on and on. You can't tell where he's going. The title is The Origin of Species, and he never does discuss the origin of species. Never does get to it in the book. He just rambles on and on. It's one of the most boring books you'd ever want to read. But when the book was reprinted 100 years later on the anniversary, they asked a man named Sir Arthur Keith, who was a strong believer in evolution. They said, Mr. Keith, we would like you to write the foreword to the 100-year reprint of Darwin's book. Arthur Keith wrote the foreword to the book on the 100-year anniversary, and Arthur Keith said, the conclusion I have come to is this: the law of Christ is incompatible with the law of evolution. Nay, the two laws are at war with each other. And anybody that fully understands this controversy will have to agree there just is no compromise. Either somebody made the world or the world made itself. There just is no compromise between the two. And evolution, when you finally boil it down, it does not have room for God. Its purpose is to exclude God. Who can name at least one of the four great questions of life? Who am I? Another one? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going when I die? Becky, is that you said that? There we go. And somebody else said it too. Is that you over there? Oh, stepped. Am I still plugged in? I stepped on my mouse tail there. Okay. Four great questions of life. And the way you answer those questions is determined by your worldview. Now at this point, I go back into the four questions. Who am I? And what am I worth? Then I say, now, if evolution is true, if this theory is true, what are we worth anyway? Nothing. We're a bunch of chemicals, right? That's all we are, is a bunch of chemicals that got together by chance. You're nothing but a piece of protoplasm that washed up on the beach one day. To make it worse, you're part of the problem, because you are one of the polluters of the environment. Now think about it. If evolution is true, then the way it's supposed to work is a species is supposed to get up to a certain population level, and if there are weak ones or inferior ones, they should be killed off. And the reason we got these folks going around trying to thin down the population or wipe out, a genocide, my race is better than your race, so I'm going to kill all of you, is because of this evolution thinking. Because if evolution is true, honestly, folks, we aren't worth a thing. There is no value to human life. And you get people who believe that, like Joseph Stalin, leader of Russia, who killed 60 to 100 million people. Or Pol Pot, the leader of Cambodia, who killed half of his entire population. Half of the country was killed. Well, if he believed in evolution. Hitler was a strong believer in evolution. And so, who are you? You're not important. Really, this philosophy of evolution is not just a dumb theory, folks. It's dangerous. And I've dedicated my life to exposing the ridiculousness of this theory, because I think it is not just dumb, it is indeed dangerous. Because you're not worth a thing if evolution is true. You're certainly not important. Second question, where did I come from? Everybody wants to know this. I mean, that's why they had the famous movie Roots. Where did I come from anyway? Well, let's go back before Roots. Let's go to seed. Okay, where did we come from anyway? If evolution is true, we came from a Big Bang. Now, where did that come from? Well, they don't know. They're searching for the answer. There is no answer, okay? if evolution is true, we came from and at this point I try to throw in some more jokes. I say we came from a cosmic burp about 20 billion years ago. We just got belched into existence. The universe did. Why am I here? Everybody would like to know what's the purpose